Alright, the steps to find a vertical asymptote, we're first going to factor it, and I'll model to you guys one problem Xbox, but some of you guys don't need to use a structure. You guys can just think of those in your head. Then we're going to see if anything cancels, and if it does, then it's a removable or a whole. And then lastly, we're going to actually set the denominator not equal to 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor this. X squared plus 0x minus 4. Notice that there is no b term, there's a 0 in there. Let me show you really quickly what Xbox factoring looks like, just in case you haven't seen it or haven't mastered it. Your a value is 1, your b value is 0, so a is 1, b value is 0, and your c value is what? Negative 4. I need to find a times c. I need to find two numbers. That'll be 1, a times c is 1 times negative 4, so that'll be negative 4. And your b value, your middle term there, is 0. I need to think of two numbers that multiply to be negative 4. But those same two numbers add to be 0. Well, anytime that you're adding to 0, they're going to have to be opposites, right? So that'll be a positive 2 and a negative 2. Those multiply to be negative 4. And so when I write it, I can write it as x plus 2. X minus 2. Now, the box doesn't really come into play only if your a value is greater than 1. And if you do the same thing in the bottom, you factor it, and you have a difference of squares there. So we just did the first thing there, we just factored. The second thing is I'm going to look for anything that looks the same. Do I have any x minus 2's down here? X plus 2's on the bottom? So there's nothing we can cancel, right? So we're done with that step. And then the third step, I'm going to set only the denominator. Now I underline that D because the denominator is where? It's on the bottom or the down part of the fraction, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to set that not equal to 0. And I'll explain that not equals to 0 in a second. So I have x plus 3 is not equal to 0, and x minus 3 is not equal to 0. Let's just pretend that's an equal sign, okay? How would you solve for x? You subtract 3, and you have x is not equal to negative 3. Let me put that in a color. And class, if you do the same thing on this one, how do I get x by itself? Add 3. What's left? X is not equal to a positive 3. Let's pick a color. Alright, so hopefully this will all make sense now. If you take x at negative 3, class, what's negative 3 plus 3? 0 times anything. This is all 0. Something divided by 0. Undefined. Undefined is a vertical asymptote. So do the same thing over here. This is why you found it. If I put in 3 here, 3 minus 3 is 0 times anything, class? Something divided by 0. It's undefined here. Okay? Let's make a quick graph. So we've just did that algebraically. Let's do it graphically now. So before, we just kind of eyeballed graphically where the asymptotes were based off of what our calculator showed us. Okay. Now, in your calculators, you have a choice. You can either put in the original problem or your factored one. So here's my story, okay? Pretend you go to the bathroom and you had a stomach ache and you don't wash your hands. And then you go to the kitchen and then you help prepare dinner, and you serve your parents their food. What happens?
They might get sick.
They most likely or will get sick, okay? The food's tainted. Your hands are probably dirty, and everything else gets dirty. If you factor wrong, all of this will be wrong. Are you following along? It's dirty. So I recommend graphing the original. What do you graph?
The original.
Let's put it in. So I got xx. Remember, you have a rational function. Everyone say a rational function? It's just a fancy word to say you have a fraction. A rational function, we're going to put in a parentheses at the very beginning. Very important. So that we can differentiate the numerator and denominator. Divided by xx minus 9. And then I'm going to go ahead and press zoom 6. So there I see my asymptote at -3. I see a positive asymptote at +3. And Monday's lesson is to see if we can figure out a horizontal asymptote. Let's go ahead and graph this. So I'm now going to put my x equals -3. And now I'm going to put it at +3. If I look at the graphing calculator, it looks like it's not going, it's approaching 1, right? A horizontal there. Remember, this is Monday's lesson, but look at that. Kind of looks like at 1. So there you have it. We found our vertical asymptotes algebraically. Factor it. See if anything cancels. Set the denominator not equal to 0. Those two solutions are going to be our vertical asymptotes.